Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome to this Monday edition. Happy Halloween in advance, 5 days in advance. Joined by Admiral Mark Montgomery to start this hour, retired United States Navy. Admiral, welcome. I want to talk to you about the summit that is coming up this week, probably that's going to happen between President Trump and General Secretary Xi. What, if anything, do you want to see in any statement that comes out of that?
Look, it's really, Hugh, what I don't want to see. I don't want to see Taiwan, and for lack of a better term, thrown under a bus. I don't think that'll happen, but we do need to be careful about this, that Taiwan is not trade space here. Taiwan is a partner. They're key to our economic success in the future. They're a bellwether for Japan and Korea about how we treat our Asian partners and allies. So very important that Taiwan not be trade space on this in this summit.
Can you expand on what you mean by trade space? Is it something that we trade away? Is that what you're talking about in
Yeah,
exchange
the
for, say,
idea.
the...
Yeah, exactly. You got it. The idea that somehow it's a bar, that the president would come out of it saying that you know, I proactively state he removes some strategic ambiguity that says that we don't support Taiwan independence or something, or that he says or somehow that he agrees to limit the amount of U.S. arms sales. I don't think that's where this president is. That doesn't mean all his staffers aren't that way. So I want to make sure that the Taiwan is treated as an important critical ally of ours going forward.
Now, that, if it were to become a centerpiece of this meeting, would almost certainly wreck trade negotiations, wouldn't it? If Donald Trump stood strong for Taiwan, wouldn't that almost certainly derail trade easing?
So it's yes, exactly. So it's key. You need to just keep it off the docket. I mean, that's what we've done historically. That's what we did in the last in Trump 45. I think we need to just keep the issue off the docket, keep the issue on proper access for U.S. firms in China, proper protections for intellectual property, and for the legality of U.S. firms operating in China. Neither of which, as they don't run a transparent rules-based system there. Um, and then he can talk about the tariffs, what tariffs he's willing to apply and not apply. I would hope he also brings up the purchase of Russian oil. I don't think we're going to get any movement out of China on this, but it should be a reminder to them that we're unhappy with the way they abet Vladimir Putin's execution of the illegal war in Ukraine.
So, Admiral, when General Secretary Xi says to President Trump, you're blowing up boats in the Caribbean and the Pacific, and that's fine. That's your near waters. Why are you trying to tell us not to take over the Taiwan Strait? What's the answer there?
Yeah, well, that's why you're a lawyer. Those are good questions. I will tell you, I'm concerned about that because we historically have been taken a fairly restrained approach to the use of power in international waters like this, and we're not right now. Look, I'm sure the president can justify what he's doing. I think what the president might say is he might turn and say, this cocaine from Colombia and Venezuela bothers me a little. The fentanyl from Mexico and China bothers me a lot. I would
Yep.
just turn around and say, what are you doing to turn off fentanyl coming to my country? Because that's what's killed 400,000 or 500,000 Americans over the last 7 years. I think the United States, I think the President Trump, who's a quick on his feet, could easily turn that discussion into a discussion of Chinese malfeasance and lack of action on fentanyl.
I'm glad you brought that up, is how I would do it. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I'm glad you brought that up because I don't want to blow up boats, but they're your boats by extended length of arm reach. Admiral, what do you make of sending a carrier and all this surface warfare fleet down near Venezuela? What is that all about?
So I have to put this in a really big perspective. I understand why we do. This is performative. We are demonstrating to Maduro your days are numbered, and he must. I have to believe that Maduro's like checking out flight. How far his personal can go. Where's refueling stops he might be able to hit on the way to Russia. He's got a problem. He's not a Assad in Syria with a quick flight up to Moscow. It's a long way to a friend for him. So, and I'm not sure Cuba is where I'd want to go if I were him. So with that said, I get the performative part of it. What worries me is the readiness part, Hugh, and I would say this equally about the extra aircraft carriers, ships, aircraft squadrons, and missile defense stuff that we had to put into the Middle East after October 7th. We just completed 2 years of heavy burn for the Navy, Air Force, particularly, but also for Army missile defenders in the Middle East. That's going to have an impact, that 2 years, for the next 3 to 4 years of military readiness, our forces' ability to surge into a China scenario. This movement to this movement
Is
to the
that because
Caribbean
of the missiles that we ran through? Is that because we
that
went through
too.
our inventory?
I wasn't even thinking about that, Hugh. You're right. The Red Sea expenditure, we literally expended in 1 year, 1 year worth of standard missile procurement that was intended to get us healthy for China. We expended it against the Houthis. That's a great add-on. And what I would say is burning readiness in the Caribbean with an aircraft carrier strike group whose missions can be handled by other assets is not what I would do, but I wasn't elected president. And so, that's his call.
Now, today, because I read defense news, I know of two things. One, the Nimitz had twin tragedies. No one was killed. We lost a jet, we lost a helicopter. Have you been reading about that's really wild on the same day? Stuff happens in big boats when they're at sea, but on the same day. What does your antenna think about? Because you commanded a strike force. What do you think about when that happens?
First, you're right. First thing I think is thank God all 5 aviators survived that, and that's a big deal. I mean, that's lucky day, frankly, to have 5 aviators go in the water and all 5 get out. Break. The issue here is we probably lose 2 to 3 F-18s in carrier flight operations over a full year. Helos at sea like this, maybe 1 to 2. To lose back to back in a 45-minute span off one carrier is extremely unusual. It's high, these aircraft squadrons have very different maintenance pools, very different maintenance men. They do draw from the same aviation fuel, but no other indications from scores of other planes flying. So you're going to have to do an investigation to see, is there some commonality here? Otherwise, it could be 2 very individual events driven by material problems, personnel error, all those kind of things come together, maintenance error. But it is unusual. I would not yet overreact.
All right. Last question. I also read defense news to read about the super cool stuff that I hope we get in a hurry. I read today about the X-BAT, X-BAT, a vertical lift takeoff aircraft and drone with a range of 2,000 nautical miles. How realistic is that? Because evidently it's being developed in response to China warfighting strategies that would preempt us. What do you know about this? Because it sounds like we really would like to have it.
So I'm going to tell you, Hugh, I am amazed right now. Right now, the number of defense industrial based companies, some are traditional primes, some of the new primes, some are companies you and I didn't hear of 2 weeks ago, are starting to come forward with terrific weapon systems. And I tell you, the offense is easy. What you're talking about here is an offensive weapon system. I can drive down the cost of the offense, get longer range, precision strike, maybe smaller warhead munitions because of additive manufacturing, the ability in 3D printers or otherwise to do them. Defense is harder because you have to intercept the interceptor. Things get a little more complicated, especially at multiple Mach speeds. But this offensive stuff, I expect, Hugh, you're going to hear more and more about low-cost, long-range cruise missiles, drones, one-way attack, with kamikaze weapons coming to fruition at a cost we can afford. So I believe it. The X-BAT is the answer. I know this type of weapon is the answer.
Is it enough for the adversary? Do they believe that we might have it already? That's the essence of deterrence, is what they think we might have. Do we have enough to spook them?
They should be nervous, and I'll tell you why. We, for Ukraine, conceived, developed, built, and are fielding a long-range cruise missile called the ERAM, Extended Range Attack Munition, all in 2 years. Soup to nuts. 16 companies bid on it. One named Co-Aspire, the other Zone 5 Technologies. delivered this weapon system. Two companies I hadn't really been tracking that well delivered a low-cost, extended-range cruise missile that can be fired from pretty much, MiG-29, F-16, Sukhoi 27, your choice, by the Ukrainians. If we can do that in 2 years there, think what we could do for ourselves. These are the
Well,
Chinese
I didn't know that story. Next time back, we're going to have to talk about that story. That's actually the single best bit of news, not projected out there sci-fi stuff, but news, looking backwards. We did that. I'm glad to know that. Admiral Mark Montgomery, retired United States Navy. Always good to see you, Admiral. Thank you. Come right back, America. Bethany Mandel is next on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of The Hugh Hewitt Show are sponsored in part by BestHotGrill.com.